as the chairman noted, we meet for our annual oversight hearing. This year, of course, it is intertwined with the COVID-19 response, as the chairman mentioned. I want to start with COVID-19 because I think we are all seeing spikes now across the country, tens of thousands of newly identified cases every day, ICU beds and hotspots running dangerously low. The president said out in the open that he wanted less testing, and he's reportedly gone weeks without speaking to our top public health officials. I think that's particularly unfortunate because I think what happens is it causes Americans to say that some of their elected leaders have just given up. And in my view, that just defies common sense because it's an absolute certainty. Jobs in the economy can't come to full strength as long as the pandemic continues with these kinds of spikes in so many communities so hard hit. This community is going to have to do more. We are going to be in the center of key economic discussions in the next few weeks. I strongly feel, as my colleagues all here know, that a top priority has got to be to extend supercharged unemployment benefits for as long as it takes to get the economy back to normal. And I see my friend Senator Thune here and colleagues know that what this means is you've got to have these benefits so that people can pay their rent and their groceries. And then, of course, as unemployment goes down, and the senator from South Dakota calls it, tapering off, of course, when unemployment goes down, then you're in a different situation. But we can't leave people August 1st not being able to pay the rent or afford groceries because they're going to just, again, be in a position where we'll probably have a tsunami of evictions and people who will just be desperate when they can't feed their families, put groceries on the table, and tens of millions of folks are out of work, and more of these temporary furloughs are becoming permanent layoffs. So I'm very hopeful that as we go to those negotiations, we can get supercharged benefits that are tied to conditions on the ground, the kind of marketplace conditions we've got out there in the real world. Now, on the subject of IRS oversight, I'm going to touch first on a stunning new report that shows how years of Republican budget cuts have led to wealthy tax cheats getting off scot-free. A new report by the Treasury Inspector General showed that over a 3-year period, the IRS failed to audit almost 900,000 wealthy taxpayers who skipped out on filing tax returns. Together, these wealthy taxpayers owed nearly $46 billion in taxes. I mean, colleagues, think of what we could do for hard-hit communities if you're talking about having that money, $46 billion in taxes that was owed to the American people. In nearly 370,000 of those cases, taxpayers had failed to respond to more than one delinquency notice from the IRS. Those individuals owed nearly $21 billion. And let's be clear, this isn't about shadowy networks of hard-to-trace shell companies. It wouldn't take a lot of complicated forensic accounting to start cracking down on tax cheats, because we're talking, colleagues, about people who simply would not file their return. Now, 2 issues stick out. First, Donald Trump says he's pro-law enforcement, but his administration hasn't taken any steps to crack down on these wealthy tax cheats who've stolen tens of billions of dollars from American taxpayers. After years of Republican bullying and gutting the IRS, audits of wealthy taxpayers are way down. So maybe it doesn't come as a surprise that Donald Trump isn't doing anything about it, given what we know about this president's long record of tax dodging and, in my view, outright fraud. Second, in my view, it's past time for Congress to reconsider how the federal government fights against tax cheating. Over a decade of Republican budget cuts, the IRS has lost 1/3 of its enforcement personnel and more than half of its revenue officers. This new Inspector General report shows, colleagues, how easy it is after these enforcement cuts to rip off taxpayers, for the wealthy to get away with cheating and even those who don't bother to file their tax return. The burden of painful tax audits has been shifted unfairly onto those hardworking Americans who work for a living. So years of Republican budget cuts have made this a good time to be a rich tax cheat, and the Congress ought to change it. You don't actually believe in law and order if you advocate for cuts that allow wealthy tax cheats to get away with breaking the law. Commissioner Reddick, thanks for joining us this morning. And Mr. Chairman, I look forward to our question and answers after we hear from the Commissioner.